So today we will start the chapter quality of. As you know, whatever water is available either through surface resources or underground water, if the quality of water is poor, there is the dissolved salts are there more than the permissible limit, or if any toxic metal is there, then it is unsafe for the crop production. So the suitability of irrigation water can be expressed as So the suitability of irrigation water is a function of different parameters. So note down the legends. SIW is the suitability of irrigation water. C is the climate. P is the plant characteristics according to the salt tolerance limit. S is the soil type. Q is the quality of irrigation water. Q is the quality of irrigation water. And D is the drainage characteristics of the soil. C is the climate. P is the plant characteristics. Whatever plant is sensitive to the salt concentration or tolerant or moderately tolerant. Q is the quality of irrigation water. D is the drainage characteristics of the soil. And S is the soil type. Say for example, if water is pure but soil is saline, so whatever water is passes over the soil surface, it can also having some of the salts, or you can say the salts can also be dissolved in the water, so that the plant can be affected adversely if there is more concentration of the certain dissolved salts. Then the quality of irrigation water can be judged through various parameters. So, or you can say the quality of irrigation water can be judged by the different parameters. So what are the different parameters? Note down one by one. First one is the electrical conductivity, or the total dissolved salts. Electrical conductivity represents the total dissolved salts. Second one is the sodium adsorption ratio, which can be denoted as SAR. Then next one is the exchangeable sodium percentage, and next is the residual sodium carbonate, and another is the toxic elements, and particularly boron is considered under this category, that is toxic elements. So we take one by one. This EC is the measure of total soluble salts. According to the electrical conductivity, which is the measure of total dissolved salts, and it can be expressed in deci-Simon per meter. The unit of D is the small and S is capital. Deci-Simon per meter means whatever dissolved salts are there, they can be expressed in this unit, and the soil water can be categorized taking from less than 1 to more than 8. Deci-Simon per meter means EC limits can be varied within the range of less than 1 to 8, or you can say the safe water having low electrical conductivity, whereas which is highly toxic means having more salts, having the values 8, and there are different categorizations. Say for example 1 to 2, 2 to 4, and then 4 to 8. So first one is the safe, then moderately safe, then moderately sensitive, then very sensitive, for example. So the irrigation water having less than 4 is considered, or you can say up to 3, the crop production is possible. But if we use the either this water or this water, then a special provision should be made, or you can say the crop production as such cannot be possible under these conditions. Means if the water having more of the salt content, then the crop production is adversely affected. Then second one is the sodium adsorption ratio. The sodium adsorption ratio can be expressed as the sodium adsorption ratio is nothing but the ratio of the sodium ion to the square root of divalent cations present in the water, that is calcium and magnesium are dominantly present in the water, and average of the divalent cations. So it can be expressed as it is the ratio of sodium ion to the square root of mean of the calcium and magnesium ions. And the SAR limit can varied, or the deciding factor is 15. If SAR is more than 15, then soils are very toxic, or if less than 15, then the safe limit. Or you can say the alkaline soils can be further divided into 3 groups. One is saline, second one is the sodic, or you can say alkali, and third one is the saline sodic or saline alkali, based on the pH, exchangeable sodium percentage, or SAR you can say, and third one is the electrical conductivity. So this is one of the important deciding factor. If the sodium concentration is more, then it is toxic to certain crop plants. Then exchangeable sodium percentage, ESP. ESP is the ratio of sodium ion concentration to the total cation exchange capacity, means moles of sodium ion divided by total CEC. CEC means cation exchange capacity, and as it is expressed in percentage, so multiply by 100. So what is the amount of sodium ion to the total cation exchange capacity? The total cations present in the soil are aluminium and hydrogen under the acidic range, and sodium, potassium, calcium and magnesium in the basic range. So what is the total content of the nitrogen out of the total CEC is expressed in the form of exchangeable sodium percentage, and the value is 13. Means if ESP is less than 13, then it is safe, and if more than 13, it is considered as the, say for example, sodic or alkali soils. And saline sodic or saline alkali soils also having the ESP range more than 13. But saline soils means where the dissolved salts are more. Dissolved means sulfates and nitrates are there, then ESP is less than 13. Clear? Then another index is the residual sodium carbonate, and residual sodium carbonate decide the what is the concentration of carbonate ion and bicarbonate ion as compared to the divalent cation, that is calcium and magnesium. So this RSC can be expressed as, means what is the total concentration of the anions, that is carbonates and bicarbonates, and by subtracting the positive ions, that is divalent positive ions, particularly the calcium and magnesium. So the residual sodium carbonate means how much is the bicarbonate is in excess, means what is the residual after fulfilling the needs or after satisfying or after neutralizing by these cations. Clear? So this residual sodium carbonate can also decide the quality of irrigation water or the safe limit of carbonate ion minus bicarbonate ion, carbonate plus bicarbonate ion minus calcium plus magnesium ion. Clear? And the safe limit 1.25, 1.25 to 2.5, and if the water having this RSC value of less than 1.25, then the unit is milliequivalent per liter. Then this is the safe, or you can say good quality water. This is moderately safe and this is unsafe. Clear? Means this is good or this is moderately good or this is unsafe, means toxic. Then among the toxic elements, the boron concentration is considered in the water and the safe limit of boron is 1 ppm only. If the water having less than 1 ppm, 1 ppm means the parts in 1 million parts. So if less than 1 ppm is there, this is the safe water for all the crops, and if the water contains more than 4, less than 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 4 and more than 4. More than 4 ppm boron in irrigation water is unsafe. This is safe, this is moderately sensitive, this is moderately tolerant, and this is unsafe, for example. Clear? Or you can say sensitive crops can tolerate up to 2, then moderately tolerant and tolerant, means the crops can be divided or can be classified on the basis of the boron content, and generally the fruit crops are more sensitive to the boron content in irrigation water as compared to the field crops. And among the field crops, say for example, the barley comes under tolerant range. Tolerant means the boron content having more than 4 ppm. So generally the barley, sugar beet is the another sugar crop after the sugarcane, and in the 2 to 4 range, generally all the field crops, say for example rice, wheat, maize, beans, they comes under moderately tolerant group. And the sensitive crops generally having only 1 to 2 ppm. Generally the fruit crops, say for example these are the fruit crops, or you can say fruit crops are more sensitive, means if irrigation water contain this less quantity of boron in irrigation water, they can be sensitive. Or you can say in another word, if concentration is more in the irrigation water, then fruit crops cannot be grown successfully as compared to the other crops. Then comes to the methods of irrigation, means how the water can be applied to the crop plants, and the methods can be decided depending upon the certain parameters. Or you can say in another word, each and every method could fit well in all the situations, or for all crops one single method is not suitable. Clear? So there are certain deciding factor on the basis of which we can decide that which method is good for a particular crop, or which method is good for a particular kind of the soil, or which method is good for particular classes of the farmers, say for example. Clear? So the important deciding factor of the methods of irrigation are, say for example, topography. Topography means what is the terrain of the soil, or you can say the what is the slope or what is the relief. Then soil type means on the basis of different textural classes, all the methods cannot be efficiently used for irrigation purpose. Clear? And then source of water available. Say for example, if canal irrigation water is available, then flooding type of method can perform well. But if water is scarce, or water is limited, or water is costly, then the flooding method cannot be advocated to irrigate the fields. Then the methods can also be decided on the basis of the crops. What crops you have taken in your field, it can also decide the method of irrigation. Say for example, if sugarcane is grown, then some other method is applicable for irrigation purpose. If rice is there, then other method is applicable, say for example. Clear? Or if a particular crop requiring more water, or if need of a particular crop is more, then the method can be adopted which provide more water at unit time period. But if the water requirement of a crop is quite low, say for example, if pulses is grown or oilseeds are grown, which can be grown in the marginal lands or the rain-fed areas, say for example, then there is no need for applying the more water. Clear? And economics, or you can say farmers consideration. If farmers are rich, then they can invest more money for installing the irrigation resources. But if farmers are poor, then they cannot afford the costly methods of irrigation. So on the basis of these factors, the irrigation methods can be grouped into four. First one is the surface method of irrigation. Second one is the subsurface. Third one is the sprinkler. Sprinkler is also known as overhead. And fourth one is the drip irrigation, or you can say drip can also be known as trickle. First one is the surface irrigation methods. Second one is the subsurface irrigation method. Third one is the sprinkler method. Sprinkler is also synonymous to the overhead irrigation. And last one is the drip irrigation, or you can say trickle irrigation. So as the name indicates, the surface methods includes those methods which can directly apply the water over the soil surface. If water is applied below the surface, or you can say subsurface layer, then the name is known as subsurface method. If water is sprinkled over the crop height, as in case of the rains, then it is known as sprinkler, or you can say overhead irrigation. And if the water is applied through low pressure in the directly root zone area of the plant, then known as drip irrigation system. Or you can say water can be applied drop by drop in the near vicinity, or you can say rhizospheric zone of the crop plants. Clear? So these surface methods can be further subgrouped into difference, means how the water can be applied over the entire field. It can be further subdivided into, say for example, flooding. Flooding means if uncontrolled water is applied to the entire field. Clear? Flooding means if the field is leveled toward this direction, then this portion is of upper reach and this is of tail end. So water is applied from here through the water stream, if water stream is there in one corner of the field, and then there is no compartment within the field, or water is wildly applied. Although this is not good method and it can require more of the water, and water distribution cannot be even, means if field is not leveled one, then there are certain depressions and certain highlands are there in the field itself. So if the depressions are there, then they can be filled with more water, and if highlands are there, the water cannot be reached to that particular pockets. Clear? So this is unscientific method, crude method, and there is the wastage of the water also. But flooding means uncontrolled application of the water from upper reach to the entire field. Then second one is the check basin. Check basin. If field is divided into certain either rectangular or square plots which are known as check, and the method of irrigation is known as check basin method. Means if whole field is divided into the certain leveled fields, say for example 5 by 5, means 5 meter is the length and 5 meter is the width, this is the square check size, or you can say if 8 into 5 meter means rectangular check. Clear? So the bunds can be prepared. Say for example, if this is the field, the one bund is there, another bund is there, so this is formed the irrigation channel within the field also. Here is the, say for example, main channel. So water can be applied through this, and this field can be further subdivided into smaller plots known as check. So water can be applied from here for irrigating this small field plot. So this small plot is known as checks, and irrigation method performed like this is known as check basin method. And in India, mostly this check basin method is adopted as far as surface method of irrigation is concerned. Then another is the border strip method. Border strip method. Instead of the checks, if the field length is too long, say for example in the western countries, or the large farmers can adopt this method, means borders are of different dimensions. Say for example 5 to 20 meter is the width depending upon the soil texture. Say for example if soil is sandy, then width is small. If soil is clay, then width is more. And the length can vary from 60 to 300 meters. Means either 60 meter is the length or 300 meter of the length. And instead of the smaller bunds, levee can be formed. Levees are the broad bed bunds. Means the base of these bunds is broader and the upper one is narrower as compared to the lower one. But in case of the check basin, the narrower bunds can be utilized for bunding the field, or you can say as the check basins. Clear? But instead of this check basin, the larger size, say for example if this is the main channel, and then this is the field length, say for example, and then the larger size plots can be constructed, and say for example this is the length, this is the width, and there is no need for further subdivision, and the field can be irrigated through the main channel directly. So this is known as the strip, and the bunds are known as border. Clear? So that's why the name is border and strip method. Clear? So border strip method is performed where the field size is larger, and the surface is leveled one or one grade is there. Grade means, say for example 0.25% or 0.5%, means in the first, or you can say the upper reach and tail end, there is the difference in the elevation 0.5 meter. Say for example, when we travel the 100 meter, if difference is 0.5 meter or 50 centimeter, this is known as 0.5% slope, say for example, clear? And if 0.1 is there, means only 10 centimeter difference is there from one end to the another end, clear? So the water can easily run from one end to the another end, but it is generally practiced in the larger fields as compared to the, or you can say the smaller farmers or marginal farmers cannot be adopted this method, clear? Then another method is the ridge and furrow method. Another method is the ridge and furrow method. If the crops are grown over the ridges, then automatically furrow can be constructed, and these furrow can be used for irrigation purpose. Say for example, if potato is grown, or if vegetable crops are grown, or if sugarcane is grown, then the sugarcane ultimately after earthing up, the plant is treated as the on the ridge, and whatever furrow is formed, it can be used as the irrigation channel. Say for example, if radish is grown, then the radish is grown over the ridges and the furrow can be used as the irrigation purpose. So the crops which are generally grown on the ridge, the method adopted for irrigation purpose is known as ridge and furrow method, clear? Then another method is the ring and basin method. And ring and basin method is generally adopted for horticultural plants, or you can say plantation crops. Means when individual plant is there, so either ring is formed. Ring means if plant is there, say for example, one trench is formed and water is applied only in this ring, clear? So this is known as ring method. Means this surface which is near to the crank or stem of the tree is not directly come in contact with the water. But in basin method, if plant is there and only one bund is prepared in circular or either square form, so if water is applied in whole of the area, this is known as basin method. So there is the slight difference between ring and method, but both the methods can be adopted for the horticultural crop plants, or you can say orchard plants. Ring means the water is applied only in the ring, like your ring is there, clear? And in basin means whole the, or you can say entire area can be irrigated, and the plants, one main channel is there, say for example, the ring can be irrigated with this same channel, this ring can be irrigated with this channel, and likewise the other plants are there. Then another method is the corrugation method. Corrugation method is generally adopted for closely grown crops, and particularly in the rain-fed areas, or where there is the scarcity of water, or you can say where water is limited. And corrugation are the miniature furrows, means small furrows as compared to the, in case of potato, the furrow are larger in size, but corrugations are miniature furrows, clear? Means smaller in size, generally 5 to 10 centimeter in width and depth, say for example. And the corrugations are formed with the help of corrugators. Corrugators are made up with the some pipes, or you can say the wooden frames are there, and they can be run either with the help of animals or with the help of tractor. and they are the small pipes having about 10 centimeter in diameter, and they can be used in the sown field. Means firstly crop is sown either in the lines or broadcasted mean, and after that in the whole field, when after sowing the field is leveled, and then these miniature furrows can be opened after sowing, then they can be acting as the ridge and furrow method. But the sizes of these corrugations are lesser as compared to the normally ridge and furrow method, and these corrugations can be further used for irrigation purpose, particularly in the close growing crops. Say for example Setaria is there, Setaria italica, or you can say smaller millets, where the water requirement is less and soil is generally dry enough, so there is no need to applying the water, or the surface cannot be wetted off, but only these miniature can be irrigated, and the water can be goes to the roots of the plants through lateral movement, and the stagnation of water is not performed. And generally the corrugations is used in the black cotton soils of Maharashtra, say for example, or Gujarat, or central part of the country, where the transverse flow, or you can say horizontal flow, is quite high as compared to the northern belt of the India, say for example. Clear? So corrugation is the method of irrigation. Corrugators are used, or corrugator is the implement or instrument which can make these corrugations, and the method is generally used for closely grown crop. Closely means, say for example, like rice or wheat, means closely grown, or sparsely grown means, say for example, sugarcane is there, or cotton is there, or maize is there, means where the rotary distance is more. In these crops this method cannot be performed well. So this is the all about some of the surface methods, and second one is the subsurface method. In subsurface methods, the water is not applied directly to the crop plants, and water is applied for enriching the water table depth, because you all know water table is everywhere. If this is the soil surface, and if water table is up to the depth of, say for example, 5 meter, and we want to grow the crops in these conditions, so how we can raise this level near to the crop root zone, so that the water can be easily extracted, easily absorbed from these water tables directly by the plants. Means water is not applied at the surface, water is not directly applied through foliar means or anything else, and water is only applied in the ground surface, so that the water level can rise up and the plant can easily take up the water. So the trenches can be constructed. Trenches, say for example, if one field is there having the dimension of 100 by 100, or you can say 1 hectare field is there, so one trench is constructed up to the depth of, if water table is say for example 5 meter, then trench can be constructed either up to 4 meter or 3 meter, and the water is applied in this trench, so that the water level can be risen up and the crop can be grown either in the nearby areas. If trench is constructed here, so in this belt or in this belt the crop can be grown, and either this trench which is not lined up, means the ridges of this canal is not the lined. Lined means not having the concrete, etc. Clear? Means the only soil or earthen edges are there, they can be easily penetrate the water from one place to the another place, or water is moved through horizontal means, and whatever crops are grown here, they can take the water. and this subsurface irrigation is not performed equally in all the pockets or all the regions of the country. Means this subsurface method of irrigation is practiced in India at two pockets only. One is nearby areas of the Dal Lake of Kashmir and second one in the Kerala state. Means if you want to apply the water in this western UP or in Rajasthan belt, then subsurface irrigation not performed well. So, or you can say in another word, the subsurface method of irrigation is adopted in India in only two regions. One is nearby areas of the Dal Lake in J&K and second one in the Kerala state. So this subsurface method is not adopted everywhere. Then third one is the sprinkler method, and the sprinkler method is performing well where the land having the rolling topography or undulating lands are there. Means there is no need for level of the fields, or you can say in hilly areas, or if slope is more, then the method can be quite efficient as compared to the surface methods. Clear? And in this method the water is applied above a certain height. If plant height is say for example 1 meter, then water is sprinkled over 1.5 meter or so. Clear? So that the water is directly applied over the foliage, and about 2.5 centimeter of water can be applied through this method also. Means there is no need for applying the more water, so there are the chances of less weed population due to the less coverage of the soil depth through water, or you can say the saturation is to the minimum depth. Say for example 2.5 centimeter water can also be applied through this method. And the sprinklers are of different kinds. Say for example some having the permanent system, means all the components of sprinklers are fixed. Means in the one field either source of water is there, or laterals are there, or ridges are there. Means source of water is there, say for example one tube well is there, after that one tank is there, then one main pipeline is there, then certain laterals are there within the field, and in laterals one ridge are there. Means the certain ridges can be embedded in the field itself, and one sprinkler or nozzle is there, say for example, and the water is sprinkled near vicinity of the each nozzle. So either these three components can be fixed, so not named the permanent system. If only source is fixed and other units, say for example laterals or ridges, they are movable, means transportable, this is known as semi-permanent. And in certain cases the sprinklers having all the units which can be easily folded down or easily movable, so these are known as portable type. Means one tank is there which can be run with the help of the tractor, and then the ready-made pipelines are there, they can be spread in one field, and after that the irrigation should be performed for 1 hour, 2 hour or 10 hour depending upon the field size. After that the system can be run from this field to the another field. So there are three kinds of the sprinklers. One is permanent, another is the semi-permanent, and third one is the portable. Then this last one is known as the drip irrigation system. Drip means also known as the trickle irrigation system, and this method is generally having all the components. Say for example in case of the sprinkler system, means one source of irrigation water is there, then laterals are there, then ridges are there, or you can say drippers are there, and the system can be either applied over the surface or below the surface. So each and individual nozzle can saturate the certain area depending upon the discharge, or you can say depending upon the size of the drippers. Or you can say if the crop having, or you can say plant having less requirement of the water, then dripper sizes are smaller. And if the crops are having the, say for example, bigger trees, means the more number of drippers can be used for single plant only. Clear? And the pipelines can be spread in the field itself, and either the lines can be installed in the field. Say for example, one line is there, and the pipelines can having the different spacing of the drippers. Say for example, if the method is applicable for tomato plantation, then if plant to plant distance is 50 centimeter, then this is the one field line is there, and some main line is there. This is the, say for example, lateral. So water is applied from this source through the main line, and then within the field this line is there. There is the end point, and there are the different drippers are there. So the plants can be transplanted near to the drippers, and the water can be applied periodically, say for example 10 days interval, 15 days interval, and so depending upon the water requirement or depending upon the part of the year. Say for example, in the month of February, March, April and May, the water requirement is more, then the irrigation should be applied frequently. And if winter months are there, then the duration between two irrigations will be more, say for example. So these drip irrigation system is generally performed for vegetable crops or horticultural crops, and in Maharashtra sugarcane can also be irrigated with the drip irrigation system, and in some of the pockets the rice or wheat can also be irrigated through drip irrigation system, but only on the experimental point of view. In the large fields, the drip irrigation is not possible in the closely grown crops or where the row-to-row distance is quite low, but it performed well where the row-to-row distance is more. So this is all about the quality of irrigation water and methods of irrigation, and rest will be continued in the next lecture. If any point of discussion you may ask.